What if, and this is a chilling thought, what if the person you loved, the one you trusted most in the world, actually tried to kill you? And even worse, what if no one, absolutely no one believed you?
That's a pretty terrifying scenario to even contemplate, because it's right to the core of those anxieties about trust, betrayal, and how easily our perception of reality can be manipulated.
Precisely. And that very question, that gut-wrenching what if, lies at the heart of our deep dive today.
Oh, this is going to be good.
We are going deep, really deep, into the twisted world of Alice Feeney's latest psychological thriller, Beautiful Ugly, set to release in 2025.
And for listeners who've maybe, already delved into Feeney's previous work, Sometimes, I Lie, His and Hers, Rock, Paper, Scissors. This author does not shy away from the dark and complex.
No, not at all. She has this incredible knack, I think, for crafting these stories that constantly keep you off balance. You're never quite sure what's real, who to trust, and just when you think you've got it figured out, bam, she hits you with another twist.
Totally. You're dealing with characters who, their perspectives are often shrouded in doubt, and let's be honest, sometimes straight up unreliable.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's what makes exploring her books so fascinating, so addictive even. It's that constant push and pull between what you think you know and what might actually be true. And Beautiful Ugly very much continues that trend.
So what are we really digging into today? What's the core of this deep dive?
One of the things that really struck me about this book is that blurry line, the one between a love that consumes you, a love that feels all-encompassing, and the kind of obsession that turns dangerous, that becomes a threat.
A love that turns toxic.
Yeah.
We've all seen it, maybe even experienced some version of it in our own lives, right? And that's, I think, what makes it so unsettling, so relatable, even in a fictional context.
Right. So we're going to unpack how the plot unfolds, really get into the motivations of the characters who are kind of trapped in this shadowy space between love and obsession, look at those big questions Feeney raises, and of course we'll delve into her signature twists and turns.
Okay, so let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right into the world of Beautiful Ugly. Where do we begin?
Well, the story starts off by introducing us to Grady Green. He's a successful author, seems to have it all, living a seemingly normal life in London with his wife, Abby Goldman. And early on, we get this glimpse of success. Grady receives good news about his latest book, a sense that everything is going well for him.
It almost lulls you into a false sense of security, doesn't it? Like, okay, this is going to be a story about a successful author, maybe some writerly struggles, but nothing too dramatic.
Exactly. But then things take a sharp turn. Abby receives a mysterious phone call, and this is where that thread of unease starts to unravel. She abruptly stops her car, seemingly having seen something disturbing. We later learn it's a body in the street, and then poof, she disappears without a trace.
Vanishes into thin air. It's so sudden, so jarring. You're left with this huge question mark hanging over everything. Where did she go? What happened?
Right. And Grady, of course, is left reeling. He eventually finds her abandoned car, but Abby is nowhere to be found.
So we have a missing wife, a sense of mystery, possible foul play. Classic thriller setup.
It is. But then the narrative jumps forward an entire year. A year of silence, a year of unanswered questions, and presumably a year of agonizing for Grady. And we find him in a state of understandable despair.
Understandable, yes.
Yeah.
But also, you start to sense maybe there's more to him than meets the eye. This despair could be masking something else, some deeper, darker emotion.
Yes, that feeling definitely creeps in as the story progresses. And it's at this point, with Grady unable to write, still haunted by Abby's disappearance, that his agent, Kitty, steps in. She whisks him away to this incredibly isolated Scotland island called Amberley.
Ah, the isolated island.
Yeah.
A staple in so many psychological thrillers. And it's never just a random setting, is it? There's always this sense that the isolation, the remoteness, is going to play a significant role in how the story unfolds.
Absolutely. And in Beautiful Ugly, that's definitely the case. Grady ends up in the secluded cabin, the former home of a deceased author named Charles Whitaker.
Okay, so we have a grieving husband, a mysterious disappearance, and now an isolated island with a connection to another writer. The pieces are starting to come together.
They are, and it's here, in this isolated cabin, that things really start to unravel for Grady, and for us as readers. He stumbles upon an unpublished manuscript by Whitaker.
Ooh, an unpublished manuscript. That's always a recipe for intrigue in a story about writers.
Oh, absolutely. And almost immediately after finding this manuscript, Grady starts experiencing these strange occurrences, hallucinations, things that make you question his state of mind.
Right. So now we're not just dealing with a potentially unreliable narrator. We're also questioning his sanity. Is he truly experiencing these things, or is his grief, his guilt, manifesting in these unsettling ways?
Precisely. And then comes the real bombshell. Grady claims Whitaker's manuscript as his own work.
Wow. Okay, that takes things to a whole new level. Is this a deliberate act of plagiarism, a sign of a mind under immense strain? Or is there something else going on, something even more twisted that we haven't grasped yet?
It's a huge turning point in the story. And it forces you to go back and reevaluate everything you thought you knew about Grady. The image of the grieving husband starts to crumble, and in its place you get these glimpses of something much darker, much more manipulative.
And how does the island itself, the atmosphere of Amberley, contribute to this growing sense of unease?
Well, the island is almost like a character in its own right. The remote setting, the unsettling behavior of some of the islanders, all of it adds to this feeling of paranoia and suspicion.
It's like the island itself is closing in on Grady, trapping him in this web of secrets and lies.
Yes, and the disquieting events keep piling up. Grady starts seeing fleeting glimpses of women who resemble Abby, almost like she's haunting him.
It's like those classic ghost stories where the line between the real and the supernatural is deliberately blurred. You're never quite sure what to believe.
Exactly. And just when you think the tension can't get any higher, the story throws another curveball. Grady hits a woman with his car. It seems like a tragic accident, but then comes the shocker. The woman is Abby. But she's not Abby anymore. She's living under a new name, Aubrey Fairlight, and she has a daughter.
Whoa, hold on. So she's alive, but she's not just alive. She's created this whole new life for herself.
She has, and it turns out she survived Grady's attempt to murder her and orchestrated this elaborate escape to the island.
Wait, so Grady wasn't just a grieving husband, he was trying to kill her. This completely flips the script, doesn't it?
It does, and it makes you re-examine everything you've read up to this point. Was any of what we saw from Grady's perspective actually true, or was it all manipulation?
And what about the daughter? When did that happen? Was Abby pregnant before she disappeared?
Yes, and she kept it a secret. This revelation adds another layer of complexity to Abby's character and her motivations for escaping.
So it wasn't just about saving herself. It was about protecting her child, her future.
Exactly, and the story doesn't end there. There's this confrontation involving Abby, Sandy, who seems to be a prominent figure among the Islanders, and Grady's agent, Kitty.
Oh, Kitty, right. The agent who whisked Grady away to the island in the first place. So where does she fit into all of this?
It turns out Kitty was in on it the whole time. She helped Abby escape and create her new life.
Wow, so her loyalties weren't with Grady at all. She was actively working against him. That makes you wonder what her true motivations were, doesn't it? Was it purely out of concern for Abby, or were there other factors at play?
That's one of the intriguing things about Kitty's character. Her motivations are never fully explained, which adds to the mystery and suspense.
So what happens to Grady? Do the authorities get involved?
No, this is where Feeney takes the story in a very unexpected direction. The Islanders decide to impose their own form of justice. Grady is forced to remain on the island, essentially a literary prisoner.
A literary prisoner, what does that mean?
They force him to write and publish books, with the profits going towards sustaining the island's economy.
That's certainly a unique form of punishment. It's almost poetic in a way, forcing a writer to use his craft to atone for his crimes.
It is, and it raises a lot of questions about justice and revenge. Is this a morally justifiable punishment? Or is it simply a form of vigilante justice that crosses a line?
It's a gray area, isn't it? And the book doesn't shy away from exploring those complexities. And the narrative doesn't end with Grady's imprisonment. We see him living on the island for a year, seemingly accepting his fate.
Yes, there's even a hint that he might be undergoing some kind of genuine transformation, perhaps finding redemption through his forced labor.
There's always a but with Alice Feeney, right?
Oh, absolutely. In the final chilling act of the book, the Islanders bury Grady alive.
Oh my gosh. So any hope of redemption, any chance of a second chance is brutally extinguished. It's a dark, unsettling ending that leaves you with a lot to think about.
Definitely. So let's talk about the characters in a bit more detail. Grady Green, the seemingly successful author who turns out to be a would-be murderer. What do we make of him?
He's a fascinating character, albeit a deeply flawed one. And his unreliability as the narrator is key to understanding him, or at least our perception of him.
Yes, that's crucial. We see the story initially through his eyes, but as events unfold, it becomes clear that we can't trust his version of events. He's manipulative, controlling, and ultimately, his love for Abby morphs into this all-consuming obsession that drives him to violence.
And Abby, or Aubrey as she becomes known on the island, she's not just a victim, is she? There's a strength and resilience to her that really comes through.
No, absolutely. She's intelligent, resourceful, and her decision to vanish, to create this new life for herself, speaks volumes about her determination to survive, to escape Grady's control.
And the revelation about her hidden pregnancy, the IVF treatment she underwent, adds another layer to her story.
It does. It highlights her longing for a family, her hope for a future that Grady threatened to destroy.
And Kitty, the agent, her role is so intriguing. Was she motivated solely by concern for Abby, or were there other factors at play?
That ambiguity is what makes her such a compelling character. Her true motivations are never fully revealed, which keeps you guessing right until the end.
And what about Sandy and the other islanders? They play a significant role in this story, almost acting as a collective force of justice.
Yes, they embody this strong sense of community, a shared moral code that leads them to take matters into their own hands. But their actions, while understandable given Grady's crimes, also raise questions about the limits of vigilante justice.
So let's move on to the broader themes that Feeney explores in Beautiful Ugly. The title itself is quite suggestive, isn't it? This juxtaposition of beauty and ugliness, hinting at the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface.
Exactly, and one of the central themes is that tension between love and obsession, how easily one can morph into the other.
Grady's initially genuine feelings for Abby, they become twisted, distorted, until they manifest as this possessive, controlling need that ultimately leads to violence.
It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked emotions, the fine line between passion and possession.
And Feeney plays with the boundaries between reality and fiction so masterfully. The inclusion of Whitaker's manuscript, Grady's hallucinations, the unreliable narration, all of it creates this atmosphere of uncertainty, making you question what's real and what's not.
Yes, you're constantly kept on your toes trying to piece together the truth from these fragmented and often conflicting perspectives.
And the theme of justice versus revenge is central to the story. The Islanders' actions force us to confront our own ideas about what constitutes a just punishment.
Right. Is their brand of vigilante justice acceptable, even in the face of Grady's horrific actions? Does their punishment fit the crime? These are questions the novel leaves us grappling with.
And then there's the theme of secrets and the corrosive power they can have on relationships. Abby's hidden pregnancy, Kitty's duplicitous actions, Grady's buried manuscript. All of these secrets contribute to the tangled web of deceit and ultimately lead to devastating consequences.
Absolutely. And we can't forget the setting itself, the isolation of Amberley. It plays a huge role in shaping the events of the story. The remoteness, the claustrophobic atmosphere, it all adds to the psychological tension and creates an environment where the Islanders' unique brand of justice can flourish.
It's a world unto itself, governed by its own set of rules and moral codes.
Speaking of rules, let's talk a bit about Alice Feeney's writing style, which is a major part of what makes her books so addictive.
Oh, definitely. Her use of dual timelines, the way she weaves back and forth between the past and present, keeps you constantly engaged, trying to piece together the puzzle of what happened.
Yes, and the unreliable narrator, in this case, presumably Grady, adds another layer of complexity. You're never quite sure if you can trust what you're reading, which makes for a very suspenseful reading experience.
And don't forget those signature plot twists. Feeney is a master of the unexpected, throwing in these shocking revelations that make you gasp and reevaluate everything you thought you knew.
And the pacing is so well crafted. She slowly builds the tension, the atmosphere of suspense, until you're completely hooked.
It's like a slow burn that suddenly explodes into a wildfire. And even though the story is full of twists and turns, she manages to keep the narrative clear and compelling. You never feel lost, even as the rug is being pulled out from under you.
That's a real skill. So, as we reach the end of our deep dive into Beautiful Ugly, it's clear that this is a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading it.
Definitely. It's a chilling, thought-provoking story that delves into the darkest corners of the human psyche.
It makes you think about the nature of love, obsession, trust, and the fine line between justice and revenge.
It raises questions about the consequences of our actions and the lengths we'll go to protect ourselves and those we love.
And as always with Alice Feeney's work, you're left with lingering questions, a sense of unease, and a desire to delve deeper into the mysteries she's woven.
So for listeners who enjoy psychological thrillers that really get under your skin, we highly recommend checking out Beautiful Ugly when it's released in 2025.
And for those who want to explore more of Feeney's work, she has several other gripping novels that are equally unsettling and thought-provoking.
We'd love to hear your thoughts on Beautiful Ugly once you've had a chance to read it. So feel free to share your theories, your interpretations, and your reactions online or in your book clubs.
And to leave you with something to ponder, we'll end with a quote from the book itself. Sometimes the ugliest truths live inside the most beautiful lies.
A haunting reminder, I think, that appearances can be deceiving and that the truth often lies hidden beneath the surface.
It makes you wonder what secrets, what hidden truths might be lurking just beneath the surface of our own lives.